And so when it started coming back in, I think I killed it with like 4 points or something. It was kind of depressing when it all got over with. Okay, everybody's here, guys. I don't know. We've talked about this, and I've got the screen, just the 2-minute NQ up right here, and I put up a 60-minute to start with, and just to see. And you can see my blue line that's here is yesterday's close. So we have that as a reference point. And really from there, I don't know, and if I go to my daily, guys, the NQs are above resistance. We don't have anything up here on the dailies now to stop us, so I don't have any lines above me. Effectively, there's our daily chart. Effectively, if I go look at something intraday, we've got a prior high up here, right here, and I got to tell you, I don't think that's going to be a big issue as we go into the day-to-day. So as I'm looking at where my support and resistance is this morning, I am seeing, and this would be the interesting part, guys. This is kind of what I'm in my mind. This is what I'm kind of. We'll actually go do this real quickly with some other charts. But there's. And whether that's the exact base, whether that comes down a little bit further, it doesn't really matter to me. We'll be able to see this pivot point with our charts. I'm not really concerned about that. This might be a little harder to see on the smaller charts. And then we've got the open yesterday and a little pivot there. And then from there, guys, we've got to go down a bunch. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I don't think today that we're going to see much in the way of having to worry about, now I could be wrong, because boy, that isn't the first time, but if I put a line somewhere down here, that's actually just March yesterday low, and I don't really need a line there because my pivot points are going to give that to me. Not a big deal. Guys, I'm going to leave this chart right where it is. I know I've got just a little bit of a base here from yesterday afternoon that would be worthy of marking. But then, let's go over and look real quick, because what I'm thinking out loud is that I don't think we're going to be dealing with yesterday's low today, with the gap up this morning. In fact, honestly, my gut tells me that we're not going to see a gap fill. And so, frankly, what I'm looking at, and as I'm looking at the euro, guys, the euro's having a really good morning this morning, and I think the euro's going to go higher. And if that sets up, I'll holler at you. But I don't think we're going to get a gap fill. I think the best we can hope for is to come into this base, and here's the ES, and I'm going to mark this base off. And if we get an attempt to move down into this area at the open, now this is an if, this is the scenario I'm looking at, this is probably, I don't even need to line up there because I'm going to be able to see that one. This is probably the best we can hope for on a gap retracement. We'll just see how it goes. But I suspect that we'll see this base kind of hold things, and ultimately this thing try to move on higher today. Now, we go over here. On a 60-minute, we do have some references up here. And so these are logical, or these are important, I think, to make references to. And whether they'll become important, this will probably be a little bit, because we've got an S1 up here. So we want to watch the S&P at 73, 74. And I'll have a line on there, so not a big deal. And then let's go look real quick at the YM, even though you know that the YM is it's not looking a whole lot different than the ES. You know, and there's really no magic where you put these. This gives you, I've got a pivot line here that will probably end up as a bit of a reference. And interestingly, though, that we don't hit our S1. Well, there's our S1, so we're just a little bit higher on that prior pivot. That's what we've got to deal with, and I suspect the ES, guys, will carry the weight. So I don't really care what the YM does. I see it commonly blast through these little resistance areas by 5 or 10 ticks, and maybe a little more, and then off it does whatever it does. But the ES, this contract, I think, will be the one that will be a little bit more these areas. So really my key focal point right now is watching this base back down here at 68 and seeing if we can't get a bounce or a turnaround to be long this, because we're going to gap up, guys. With this gap, I suspect we're going to gap up with an up or an advanced decline, 1,000 plus 1,000, something like that. Our VIX, it will be low, or trend, even though it closed negative yesterday. When I say negative, it closed at 1.27. It's not terribly negative for sure. I suspect all those numbers are going to turn and be quite positive to start with this morning. So we'll just have to watch this open. But this is what I'm looking at. And again, if we start to go through our open, if that were to occur, then I would come back and start paying more attention to my lower support areas. And the focal points would be for me the daily pivot, because I have a pivot here price-wise. And then again, low of the day, but that's marked off anyway. And everything in between, there's just not a lot of serious support in between there that I think we need to be concerned with. So that's the analysis for this morning. I just think that the gap, or the strength of the day of this gap, will be tough to short and have much luck with it. You notice the last few weeks and months, in fact, the range, the daily range on these contracts have been quite small. In terms of, we haven't had 100-point YM days. All December, January, we just haven't had them, neither to the negative or to the positive. And the markets are all real compressed right now, trying to break through this overhead resistance. And whether or not they're going to be able to do it, I don't know. But I don't. Today could be the day. I watched Alcoa last night, and they actually sold off on the news. Let's see where they, but they're not bad from their open. So, let me go get a different time up. They sold off on their news. Yeah, they closed here, and they sold off on whatever earnings that they had. They sold off from. So that won't necessarily be a big positive on the day, but it's not affecting the market, obviously, on the open. So we're just going to watch this a minute. I'm not seeing anything that looks tradable here. I'm not shorting this thing. I don't care if I have a double top on these pre-markets at this point. I sure don't want to short this. Like I say, I'm a little leery about fading this gap, guys. So unless we get something that's a really sweet breakout failure with a shock bar, something that is quite significant, I think I'm going to be reluctant to short this, but I would rather pick this up down a little bit lower and stay with the trend. And that's my feeling, as I'm kind of looking through these charts this morning. We may not get a gap fade at all. This is a coin toss. I just don't really even have a clue. Some mornings I have kind of a feel or some idea what may happen, a bias, and this morning I really don't. I really just don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. So we'll just wait and see what it tells us. Questions, guys? Any comments?
Nope. Do you trade the pound?
I do. The pound is over here on a whole different set of charts, but actually, yes. I trade the pound least of all the contracts. Well, not least because YM is the least, but I trade the euro more than the pound, Dave.
Okay.
And not to, it's a habit. It's not. There's no. And there's. Let me look at the this compared to the pound or to the euro, because the pound actually moves a little bit differently. It's moving much stronger. It came and pulled in. The retracements are very similar to the euro. The euro pivot high here has held, where the pound has pushed through this pivot high from earlier this morning.
That's what I was wondering if the 60 minutes into resistance, but it's stronger than the euro for sure.
Yeah. This just looking at this, Dave, I believe this is going through resistance. Now, one of the interesting, let's look at something real quick here. This will be interesting to look at. Let's look at the dollar. And now the dollar here, this one could give us, what do I do? Dave, do you I spent some time with that new eSignal 11.
Yeah.
And the scripts actually from Prestine, my version 10, will actually work. My tick charts, my pivot lines, all that stuff will work. I was quite impressed.
Yeah.
But I don't like the fact that there's no functionality in any of the studies yet. So I'm not going to be using it much for anything. Looking at the dollar, it's got some good support here and some right below. That's a long ways for the dollar to move down into here. That's quite a ways to come this far. So I got a feeling that the dollar probably won't go much lower. Well, we'll have to see how it acts, but I would think it's going to take a little while to get through this area. That being the case, it may be a little slow for us to see 6E get much higher. Here comes the euro now. And it's got a ton of stuff right above it, and it's having trouble right now up here on the 5-minute. And the dollar's popping up pretty nicely, so that'll bring both those contracts down.
Neil, is there a certain kind of resistance that you actually like? What I mean is, if you
the one that stops price.
No, but I mean, if you expect to get through it, then the fact that you're overcoming it can add fuel to your trade, right?
It can.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, Dave, I guess the resistance. What I find is, when I look at it, for example, here we're looking at the resistance up here, and as we now we come down to the smaller time frame, for example, all I'm really judging is I don't know if it'll go through it here, and so the only evaluation that I have is how does it act, and see, so far I like that we've got this little base. I like that this responded well to this support area, and the fact that it's having trouble up here the second time, to me, isn't a huge concern. If I'm thinking higher here, it's okay. But if it can't get through in number 3 or number 4, it's probably not going to. And then we're going to start seeing some weakness. And my first concern is, do we lose a pivot? This is an area of support. And do we lose a pivot? And if that's the case, then really, the way you read it is, the next stop becomes down here at this level. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I never know if resistance or support can be overcome. I just watch how it acts when it approaches those areas, and if we get a solid move through it, that's a good sign. But if we have a lot of struggles as it approaches, it's going to be obviously more difficult. So that's really it. The fact that the dollar is sitting on some pretty good support on a 60-minute chart also leads me to believe that we're going to have trouble here, and because they're both sitting in the same reference areas.
All right.
Now, I don't know if that told you anything, but all I do is I just watch and see how they react, because I don't know. I'm not good enough to know what price is going to do. So guys, we've got another 6 or 7 minutes. What I'm going to do is I want to go and actually transfer these lines that I put on this chart over to a 5-minute on another monitor, so that this is the NQ, so that I know at 88, okay. not going to watch this. The chart that I marked up is actually just the one I use for this purpose, and I don't really keep much of an eye on it. Oh, darn. Now, where'd I put the chart? There it is. So I'm just going to take a second and move these over so I can see them. 2850. Okay. Okay, there's our 2 minutes. And what I didn't do is I kind of want to see what the Russell's like. How's it looking? Looks just like the rest of them, doesn't it? I've got a little bit at 29 or at 92.50, 92.60. They all held yesterday's highs pretty well. So now I've got my other 5 minutes marked up, so we can watch these. But at this point, guys, I'm really going to be concerned that these things are kind of all flying in the same direction. And obviously, all of our time frames are now up. So our bias has to be long. And I think we just need to wait for that setup that gets us long until we really get a trend change. And we just can't think short until we see something change. I think we're going to see a pretty bullish open. To see this fade a little bit at the open at the gap here would be okay. Guys, this pound is something that I would, and I'm looking at oil as well, and oil looks good to move on out of this range a little bit. Whether or not it can, we'll see. But the 15 looks good. The 60 looks pretty good. We've got some trouble up there at $90.75, $90.75. That's 50 points away, so sure looks like it's going to try to do it. So oil looks higher, the euro looks higher if we can get the dollar to break. I would say, guys, if you're looking at a pound or a euro trade, Dave, like you pointed out, the pound trade looks better to me, simply because we're not into a lot of resistance on it. We've got a little more room. We've got that prior pivot right there at 15.595, but it tested it once, so it has a better chance of getting through. got stuff all the way up. I'll show you this. Here's the pound, and we've got stuff above it. And the good part is these pivots become a little less effective, only because of the amount of time. But it's only a few days. But because there's still so many of them, you just have to be cognizant of them. We got 3 of these up here, and it's certainly struggling, and the dollar would be the reason that it's having the same difficulties. So if you're going to watch it, we'll keep an eye on the dollar as well. See what it can do. All right, as I look, guys, the 4 contracts are all up equally about the same in a percentage. So we've got the YM, the NQs, Russell, ES, they're all up within ticks of one another on a percentage basis this morning. So we don't, I look at that because I want to see, for example, are the semis a little stronger? Are the transportations or the financials, etc.? Is there a sector that's a little stronger? Right now, we have pretty much equal strength across the board. That doesn't give me any hints one way or the other. So I'm not leaning towards one contract or the other because I don't see any strength or weakness relative in that bunch. Oil's almost up 100 ticks this morning. 90.
Wow. Yeah.
There's our 5-minute at the euro. And it is having some trouble. And the dollar looks like it wants to go higher. You look at a 15-minute dollar, and there's 2 serious bottoming tails. It's going to push that euro down. Let's look at the date chart real quick on the euro. We broke support. Our next one. Got a good support down here at 12,700. But nothing really before then. That's a long ways to go. There it goes. There it goes. Dollar's breaking and moving up. Guys, right here, I'm just looking, this little bar formation, the whole thing wasn't compelling because of the trend, but this little bar formation I find is one that's quite typical of typically a pretty good short. And if you get this in the right place, what I like seeing is this double top up here, and I like this second bar being an engulfing shock bar type, topping tail, completely engulf, and then sometimes there's only one pods bar or one reversal bar back up, one green bar here. There's 2 bar combination. You got to have at least one up bar here. Even if it's 4 bars here, and you get a nice green bar up here, and then you get this topping tail engulfing bar that really comes. This is the one I mean. That one is a really nice formation, and that usually will send prices lower. I find that to be fairly reliable as a short, particularly if I see that on an E-mini with a tick divergence at resistance and I have some weakening internals, I'm going to climb all over this one. They don't fail very often. This is a counter trend trade that I wouldn't have a problem taking with this bar formation here. But the secret is this second or this third bar, this engulfing bar is really the key. Okay guys, we're just a couple of minutes away from open. So let's do this. Let me get these down. Kind of keep an eye on your charts. I'll just talk to you as I see stuff happening on mine. And let's see what we get. And then I'll just talk through it and mention what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking, and we'll see what we can find. Right now, I like what the YM is doing here, coming into this base area. I like this little bar formation. And Qs are showing a completely different picture. And that's okay if they're going to be the stronger one of the bunch. The Russell looks good. That bar just failed, so we'll forget about that one. So let's just give this a minute to get open and we'll see where we go. There we go. Alright, now there's our shock. If we can trade above this on the YM, let's watch these other contracts. This little push down and pop back up. We trade 60 or 36 on the YM. We should see this thing move back to the top. I like those little failures like that. But the NQs are looking a little doggy on me. So before I get real excited about trying to take anything for a minute, I don't like the YM long at all, even if it breaks this, unless these NQs can get turned around, and then I wouldn't mind taking and looking at trying to get long one of those. But I don't like, well, this might get turned around now. Here we go, Russell. But I don't like the way the NQs look compared to the Russell. The NQs are the only dog, so there's the 36.
Oh.
And there goes the Russell. So guys, if you want to try to take this NQ trade, the thing says we should be able to pop up. It's got to hit though. I'd let it hit. Let's don't get too quick. Let's let the NQs hit. Now you got a big stop on this thing. So effectively now what we're doing is we're not stopping this thing at the bottom of the bar. That's far too far for me. What we're doing is we're stopping this thing as we watch the next few bars progress. If you take this, if you take it, I haven't done it yet. It hasn't hit. I'd like to see a little more strength in this. See guys, look at this. And this is why I like having these things acting in concert in the morning. When they don't, it gives me pause, because we're still okay on this YM trade. Now the ES trade looks pretty good, but you don't want to be in that darn thing and have it come all the way back in on you. And the NQs have not popped yet. The Russell is, thank goodness, which leads me to believe the NQs can probably still pull it together. Oh, the trans is just ripping. XLF is way up. Okay, the Euro's not getting any stronger. Guys, this NQ's got to get straightened out. The other contracts are all moving up, and the NQ is not. And this is an environment that I want to be more careful in. There we go. Now the NQs are gonna trade. It's too soon for me to say they're too weak. So I'm gonna buy those there. And now I'm gonna give them a little bit of room. Ooh. And let's see if we can get them to keep moving. They should get caught up. Now remember, we've got a little reference. Well, we don't have much on the NQs. Watch your ES reference, guys. And as soon as we get into the reference on the ES, which is another, we've only got to go to 74. We hit 74 on the ES, and then start unloading a little bit of your NQ trade. I know it has no resistance, but the ES does, and the ES will likely stop the rest of the market. Now, see, this isn't happy. I don't like to see them come back in much. Let's give this another bar to kind of get itself, see if it'll still get itself gathered up. The other markets are holding up really quite nice. Holy buckets, you guys. That's far too much. Boy, I think it's going to pop back up, though. Boy, it's not. Dang it. Okay, guys, I got to be out of this thing at some point here. I'm going to give this a few more ticks. This is far more than I wanted to see. Judging these other contracts, I just did not expect this to come this far in. Okay, here's our gap, or our yep, guys. Okay, dang it. Interesting part is we didn't hit any resistance up there. Now, remember the lines that we had drawn? Let's just see. Let's just watch this now. I'm not going to fade this. I can't short this thing, guys. It's just... So let's watch this, these contracts and see what the NQ will do down around 88, if it gets there. The Russell's holding up really well, and I use that as a barometer. Oh, these guys just don't want to hold here. The NQ sure doesn't. But the YM doesn't look so bad. ES doesn't look so bad. So we just need to give this a little more time. Now it's going to go a little bit more. Here's going to be the interesting part. That is, will the NQs hold this 88 area? Normally when you get a breakdown failure, like the YM did down here, the Russell, even the NQs, when they'll give you a breakdown failure in an uptrend like this at the open, the odds are with you that that's a good long trade. So I didn't mind taking that thing. Okay, here comes our base from last night on the NQs. Ticks are not improving. It's a little early to be worried about those yet, though. We don't have enough information. The euro didn't hold its pivot. The pound did, guys. The euro's in a bunch of congestion down there. Guys, our bias is still long.
Yep.
We're just now on the Russell, on the NQs. We're coming into those areas of support I mentioned. The YM and the ES, as you guys can see, are holding up really well there. They're trying to hold that support area.
Oof.
It'd be encouraging to see some tick divergences here. Even though they're not horribly negative, we're not seeing any divergences on ticks. And that's a little early to start seeing a real negative tick anyway. Don't normally see those until we get 30 minutes or something into the day. Watch this 1 minute here over here, guys. I don't know if you guys trade the Russell, but even the ES, we can, right there's a trigger on the ES. The YM is the same thing. That little 1 minute retest might have been just enough, should have been just enough to keep this thing moving now.
David, you gonna talk? Because you're looking at your phone. No, okay. No, because I'm gonna turn on the microphone then. Nice. Did you pick up the Russell?
I picked up the Russell right on that 1 minute.
Ah, me too. Okay. So,
You got it, Carol?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it a lot of room.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little bit out of here if I can get up here a little bit higher. Boy, if I can even get to 75 or 95.10, I'll take a little out of this thing.
Yeah, I see it.
Because this is, guys, this I would have hoped to see a little better bounce out of this thing. And 15 minutes in, you're still working okay. Don't like the 1 minutes I'm seeing up here now. Nope, that's not. This is just sloppy here this morning, guys. This is just getting really sloppy.
Out.
Yep, that makes two of us, Carol. Now the darn thing will pop back in on us. You know that, don't you? Look at the NQs. The NQs are holding pretty well.
Yeah.
We're all of these are still holding. We just broke by a couple of ticks. But that really should not have happened. So I'm going to be patient with this. We've got a failure there on the Russell that really, you look at the other contracts, they didn't fail. The NQs didn't fail. The other ones have not failed. It looks like they're starting to. This won't be a good sign for the NQs to push through these bottoming tails. So the Russell did not hold support. The NQs are not going to hold. Well, in fact, they're still coming into last night's high. Yellow line is last night's high. This pivot line is goofed up, guys. On my YM
Which one?
is, look up here in the top right, the top left corner. I've got a yellow line as yesterday's high at 11,628, but yesterday's high was not 11,628.
Mine is
Yesterday's.
11:68,
Carol, what's yours?
yeah. Exactly the same.
Yeah, but yesterday's high, that was the day before yesterday's high. Yesterday's high on my charts was 11,599. Now that, look at this. This is just really sloppy, guys. I'm just going to sit away from here for a second. This little breakdown failure. There we go. This suggests that we're going to try to go higher here. I kind of like what I'm seeing, but it's not as whippy and junky as this is looking. Let's give this a minute more before we do something with it. We're getting a bit of a divergence right now on our ticks. It's just a small divergence. But I'd like to see even if the NQs had put in one more little bottoming tail here on this 1 minute and pop up, that would be encouraging for a sign that things are going to hold together here.
On the 24-hour, the previous day we have 12:30 was about 11:6:27:28. That's why your yellow line is there.
Okay, that's why I've got it up there.
Yeah.
Guys, watch these ticks here. We're getting just a small divergence. Let's see if that'll hold our price. I don't know. We're coming into an area that it could. This is on these contracts about where they ought to be turning if they're going to hold some strength and turn, like the steam turn here.
Oh God.
Not happening, is it?
Neil, wholesale trade at 10, that's not a biggie, is it?
Do what?
Wholesale trade numbers at 10 o'clock, that's not a big number, is it?
Today, no, it's not. It shouldn't have a big effect. YM's the strongest contract, guys, without the exception. NQ's got a breakdown failure here. I know this is sloppy, so if you don't touch this thing, I don't blame you. We've had a couple of them that really haven't worked. So this is an area of support, and that may be all it is. So if we wait for another entry, that would be the safest bet, and not try to take a 2-minute COG here. Somebody's trading.
Yeah, it's me.
Let's see if this will give us one more shot to get in.
Oh wow.
See, this is about, you look at your 5 minutes, and the ES didn't come down to it. The NQs did, and they actually broke just a skosh. Russell was the weakest, which I never like to see. But YM held up really well. ES is holding here. We got a little breakdown failure now on the ES. So guys, these are all, if you want to wait for one more shot to get on these things, let's look at a 1 minute, if we can get a little failure on a 1 minute to move lower, a little retest to move lower on the 1 minute. You hope that they'll just pop right up and not give you too many of these if you want to be long. You don't want to see this thing spend too much time trying to get higher. The YM didn't look so bad. The ES didn't look so bad. Now, what we're going to watch for is, let's watch if this is going to break again. Guys, we want to see one of these ticks actually get out of this range. We've only seen, it's time now. We've seen a positive tick here of only 400, 500. It's time now on a push that we start seeing this tick get up a little higher than this. If this continues here, then really I think it becomes a little tougher for these markets to move back up in here. So as we see a little push, and if it'll consolidate here for a bar or two, we get a little breakout bar on the YM or the ES, any of these. Let's look for a tick, because right now we're trading right at 24. At 0 effectively on the tick. And this bottom really needs to hold. these contracts. 5 minute doesn't tell us much. Boy, the NQ's not holding. Come on, baby. Boy, guys, this is just more weakness than I anticipated.
Right.
But we're not seeing the YM. We're not really even seeing it in the ES too much. But that 5 minute of the ES doesn't look, right now, very hot. It looks like the NQs is going to try to go lower one more time. Now there's a divergence right now on this tick. We got a little break lower on the ES and the ticks didn't go with us. That doesn't mean it won't, but that's still a positive sign. Oh, nice reversal. Guys, this ES is right there. There's a 1 minute entry on the ES. There's a 1 minute on the NQs here now. I like that reversal. It's safer to let it clear if you wanted to wait, because the NQs are still dogging us. It gives you a very tight stop here. This really needs to get going, and I believe that, look, judging from the YM, it probably can. There it goes. Here it is starting to go. There we go. That's better. Come on, guys, break out. Now watch this. If it can break out, here, watch for these ticks. These ticks. Now over on the NQ, I've got the Nasdaq tick going, but this isn't. See, these ticks aren't pushing up, and we're long enough into the day that we should see those darn ticks push up. The NQ, the YM broke out, as you can see, and we didn't do it with a tick push. So it really, again, puts us in a little jeopardy, I think. All right. I'm not going to short this thing just yet, guys. We've got all this support coming into us. I just don't see it as a high odds. Of course, the long isn't being very high odds right now either. This is just junky stuff. Let's let this clear up. The NQs are not getting any strength. And this looks lower now to me. Our trend is positive. Of course, our ADDs come down because the market has. Our up-down volume isn't really letting off much. Of course, it's still too early. I mean, we're still in this little range. Prices really haven't moved far enough to change these internals yet. This has got to clean up, really, before we can do anything with it, guys. This 2 minutes just a mess. We've got to take out some resistance up here, and we haven't done that yet, so shock bar 5 on the YM. It's breaking. We should see some weakness come in there now. Look at these ticks. They're still diverging here. Now maybe they're going to stop doing it. Negative 500 tick. That's not that negative, guys. It's interesting. We're not getting, and there really isn't a lot of commitment to this market one way or the other. Our internals are positive. A breakdown failure here on the NY or the ES wouldn't surprise me. Not sure I want to take that one long with the way the 5 minutes starting to look. Well, so much for the gap fill that wasn't supposed to happen, guys. See, that's why you don't want to listen to me. The NQs look like they're determined to get the gap fill.
Yeah.
Boy, the Euro sure came in hard. Broke that support area. Now we got a 1 minute reversal here on the NQs. Let's give them a second to see if they'll stabilize before we get too excited about this. This would be a good place for the YM to stabilize. If you look at your 5 minute charts, be a real good place for the ES to stabilize. Boy, the dollar's just ripping right now, guys. It's moving higher pretty aggressively. Theoretically, a stronger dollar is not that good for our economy. The market doesn't seem to care right now. We've been moving up for a while, and the markets really haven't reflected that much, so. NQs look promising, but the other contracts don't. Let's see if they'll give us one more chance to get something on here. Where'd our ticks go on this one?
No,
Only 500. 500 is just not that hot, guys. We need to see a 700 or 800 tick. And we're into the market now a half an hour. You notice our up-down volume has continued to build. We haven't lost any up-down volume. We should see our ADD picking up for us a little bit here. It's a good-looking 5. On the NQs, it's a nice-looking 5. I sure would feel better if we can take out even a little bit of resistance up here on the ES. Be good to trade over 70. Guys, this may set up as a 1, 2, 3. And this isn't the place that I like it. Now, the YM's been strong enough. It could work here. I don't like the little 1, 2, 3s right here. There isn't a void above us. And it could easily work. But I just don't like these little 1, 2, 3s here when we don't have void. I find they'll pop up and back in and pop up and back in, and they're just so darn hard to keep a tight stop on them. Oftentimes they'll get you. Now, guys, we still need to see a tick push. It does concern me that we haven't seen a decent tick push on these on the ES particularly. Our internals look okay. Watch what price will do, guys, when this tick comes back to 0. In fact, now we're at negative 250. Watch how price acts as these ticks pull back. We've spent a great deal of time below the 0 line with our ticks. The majority of our time this morning's been below our 0 line. And of course that accounts for why we've sold off. But we actually do have a better tick on this big green bar up. We broke to probably one of the highest ticks of the morning, and they're holding up there a little bit better. But as we pull below 0, if we don't lose, for example, here on the YM and the ES, we're not really losing the prior bar's low. And as the ticks will pull back below 0, and if we can hold this, then it gives it a chance to rest, and we should see, in theory, what we want to see is prices hold as ticks pull back, and then on the next push, see those ticks run back up to 500-600 or higher if we can get them, and see prices advance, like what's happening with the ES right here. So we want to see this really hold these last couple of lows as these ticks are falling down. That's a good sign of strength. The NQs are looking good. So far, this is looking okay. NQs are still looking pretty good. There we go. Now, watch these ticks. They better get going. We don't want a 130 read. We want, if it'll break out, we really want to see this baby push above our prior ticks. So we want to see a 600 minimum here. Come on. Now, guys, if you were long this and we break out and we don't have a good tick push, you got to have a stop below this current 2. Come on, ticks, get up there. We're only at 450. You know, that's not indicative of a really powerful market. Come on, you can do it. I don't know if it can do it, guys. It really makes me worry whether it can do this or not. We're getting some topping tails on this NQ. See how those ticks didn't really, and that's the kind of confirmation you want to see. So now, one of the things we're looking for is, when can you leave a trade on and trail a pivot? This is not the environment to do that in. We're not really seeing all the components of this coming together. So being in the market trying to play this, I would be taking stuff off, or as we see little stalls, I wouldn't hold this for a pivot type trade. I'd be very careful not to let a trade like this with this environment get you in any trouble and lose any money. This is an environment you have to kind of scalp in and be real careful in. See, because that tick, or that shouldn't come back in. See how the NQs, or the ES came back in, YM came back in here, NQs came back in, and had we had a decent tick push on this, that likely would not have happened. So now we look at this chart, and let's watch and see what the ticks do as we get a pullback. And actually, it would be okay to have a break of a prior bar and not have the ticks really drop much, and give us a little breakdown failure over these 4 bars that we're dealing with. But this isn't really great price action we're looking at. Dang it, this morning I wish it would have been. Up-down volumes holding together. VIX is not getting any worse. Trend still holding good. But there's nothing in there that really speaks to me yet. Are you guys in anything here? I'd like to see another push down here that fails, that gives us a bottoming tail. They'll actually break these lower bars, these bars low, the last 5 or 6, 8 minutes. We can get a nice little bottoming tail into here. I'll watch it and get a tick divergence like we're getting. Then to get long again makes sense, but the NQ picture isn't really a great one. ES and YM don't look too bad. The Russell here is really struggling. Guys, watch the euro. I don't know if you guys have got them up on another chart. Let's see if we get a little retest of this euro. We came down with a climatic volume bar.
Okay.
It would be cool to see a little retest on the euro. Because we approached a volume bar that typically will end a move. We got 7,000 contracts on a 5-minute, and that's a pretty good bar. Volume bar. Well, let's keep an eye on the euro as well. guys, I'm looking at the 5 minutes here, and of course the YM and the ES are giving me a different picture, but I don't like the weakness I'm seeing in the NASDAQ and the Russell. Our bias really still has to be long. We have not changed trends on our 5 minute. So with the support that we see below us, shorting it's not a great idea. And maybe this is where our little retest occurs on the NQ and the Russell. I sure would have felt better if we'd had a little breakdown failure on these other two contracts, the YM and the ES. I'm not sure any of these contracts are really going to get going if the NASDAQ can't get going and start showing some strength. Now this bottoming tail doesn't look so bad. If we could come right back up in on this NQ, trade above this 2 minute bar, turn into a bottoming tail on this, that would be a picture I would like to see. I would like seeing that. The ticks are holding pretty good. So it has a half a chance of turning into a bottoming tail. Okay, here comes the ES break. Watch these ticks. In this case, we don't want to see these ticks drop too low. I'd like not to see these go down to negative 600 or 700. That would be more weakness than we really want to see. Now, if this thing comes back in, gives you bottoming tail, and we guys, it just might not do this. NQ should find support here, and really the ES should find some support here. Russell's not holding. There comes the NQs around. Watch the ES. The YM doesn't look too bad here. The NASDAQ is starting to shape up.
Dang.
It's not a bad tick on that last push. If the ES can just get turned around, take out a 2 minute high. Even reverse that 1 minute bar would be accomplishment here. Now the YM's doing it. A couple of ticks and the YM will take out that 2 minute. NQs are just not getting it together. It gets really kind of hard to trade when you get the YM that's really showing darn good strength, and now we're starting to see the ES crack just a hair, show a little bit of weakness relative to the YM, and the NQs just aren't showing near the strength. When you don't have those markets in harmony, it causes some real trouble. There we go. They hit. The ES is trying to hit. Guys, it'd be really important for this NQ to trade up here now and take out that 2 high, that 2-minute high. If it can't do it, the likelihood these other contracts probably won't go anywhere either. But this is where you want to be in. I like the tick divergence. The ES is a decent entry there. The YM was okay. The NQs concern me, and it would be one we wouldn't be trading anyway long. But the long, guys, is the only side of the trade that we can be on here. I don't think the short is a good trade. Here comes the NQs. Maybe. Nope, look at this. Now the YM is going to come right back in. Dang, guys, this isn't going to hold. This is strange.
Let me ask you.
Yeah,
I'm looking at NQ 15 minute.
Okay.
It seems that it's 100% retracement.
Let me
It's
look at
almost
it.
a breakout failure if it goes down a little more.
You mean on the 15?
On the 15.
I'm looking at a 15. Well, let me flip to an overnight. You look at the overnight, the 24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see what because you do have that base above you, and that's what you're looking at, Jose, right? This
Correct.
area right there, yeah. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. But no doubt, I can see what you're referring to.
And if you look at the 60, you have a very similar breakout failure pattern.
Mm-hmm.
If it could just trade a little bit below.
Well, I agree there, but looking at it, that's true. But with the that's the 60, that's not the NQ, Kyle. But with that pattern, it's still not something that I can short off the top up there. I do have a double top on a 15. I have a breakout failure trying to complete here on a 60, but it hasn't taken out my support or my resistance. My support. And on a 5 minute now, let's go look at a 5 minute. We really haven't taken out. We've got an M top, granted, but with this support in here, this is why I can't short this thing. Look at what it's trying to do now on a 5 minute. So, guys, this ES, there's a good tick divergence here on this ES. I think this is going to pop up and go again. We've tried a few times and not been successful getting it. So, I understand some reluctance, and if you want to wait for some clarity, I don't think that's a bad idea. But I can't short this with what I'm seeing on my gap up and the way it's holding the top of this gap. I can't short it. My trends are all up.
Actually, the reason why I was pointing it out is not that to short it at this point, but
I see.
this infatuation with going long here. And yes, it's a support, but the way I'm looking at it is unless I could see it breaking some resistance, I'm not sure it's going to go too high up. I mean, I look at that 60 minute, it's a pretty red bar. I look at the 15, it's a pretty decent bars. It isn't a support, but there's still a lot of work I see.
Yeah, I would agree. And this stuff above us now, the NQs are going to have because of this end top. I agree, at 91 it's going to become a little bit problematic for the NQs. And here's the hard part, is now take that and look at this picture. And look at the 5 minute of the ES. Okay, here's my ES. And the 5 minute of the ES looks really quite nice. I came down to this base. I've got 2 retests on this base. I don't want this picture, this thing's quite that darn big. I have a nice divergence here on my ticks on this retest, trying to hold some support. So with my internals of being positive, the picture, the message that I'm seeing is, wow, we're having some trouble. And granted, this is going to be a little bit of trouble, and we're seeing that. This suggests to me that we are going to go higher. When? Well, I would have hoped it would have already occurred.
Watch.
Where in the heck is my charts? What did I do to my charts, you guys? Where in the heck?
Dave hit him, so you want him to call any more long plays.
Stupid trades. Well, that's what's happened. Because I don't have...
Right there.
Well, no, but that's only that one
Oh.
great large chart. Where the heck are my 2 minutes? Where's all my others?
Wow.
That's just weird. That's just more than weird. Guys, tell you what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute and let me go reboot this. Let me go see if I can't get my chart back up.
Oh, God.
Here we go. And this is going to go long. Tell you what, I know you think I'm crazy, Jose, but I think it's going to go long. Here it comes.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive, do they? That you're crazy when it goes along?
No.
Just testing.
It's just ugly though, isn't it? It's not moving very fluid.
Oh.
But that ES trade is set up. I mean, it's not moving that great, but it's set up properly. Boy, I hate it when I lose my charts like that.
Wow.
Because I kind of wanted to get that long down there. Boy. Let's see what the ticks are doing, if I can get the darn thing back up. What are we finally got a good tick breakout on that push. But now we're getting topping tails. Maybe it's a good thing my charts did go down, because I might have tried to buy that 2-minute bar, that 5-minute change right there, and it's just acting so poorly.
Very poor.
Did you buy?
No, I took oil at 90, but I sold it already at 9 and total. Just for the shot. That little breakdown failure on the one, I scalped it, but that's it. I'm afraid to hold it.
But I gotta tell you, yeah, but the 5 minutes says higher, guys. I mean, really, that ES 5 minutes says higher. I can tell you that. And how much higher? I don't know. But that ES 5 minutes says higher.
Huh.
I just believe that. That's what the charts are telling me. And the way it's moving, if you stay away from it, I don't blame you a second. Yep, guys, we're going to stay away from this stuff. This just, we're not getting. Let me flip this one over and get this one back up. This is the one that got me all twisted up. There's a 2-minute. Now you know where support is. But guys, look at this. And again, you don't see this happening. This isn't really, you can see the base. And you guys know the base is right here. So
Are you
I'll
projecting
draw.
anything?
Oh, no. Thanks, Jose.
That's okay, because I was looking, I couldn't see it.
There we go. Here we go. Okay, there's our base. And as we looked on the overnights, YM's holding it very well. The NQs are now into the gap fill. Russell's into the gap fill. We've got good fair support in that area. And you look at this now, we came right down into the support area. And if we play our trend, these retests, we've got the tick divergence. I mean, you guys can see it clear as a bell. And even though we're having so much trouble getting through this junk above us, this thing says higher. The message in this says higher. Now, will it follow through? I think it will. And I say that because there's our 5 minute. And yes, I know is it going to go ripping right to the top? Boy, it sure doesn't look like it. But our internals aren't getting any worse. Our up-down volume's been building all morning. Trend's just going, VIX is going just where it was. Trend is still holding down below 1. It's not decisive. Ticks are holding about where they were. They're not real decisive. The only thing that gives me pause, guys, is we're not seeing, as we've talked about this darn tick here has only pushed up to about 500-600 on the top. And that's just a weak tick. So their environment, Jose, like you say, maybe there's just too much overhead up here for this thing to really get going. But there's good support that's holding it now. And that was evident in all these, in our ticks and in our bottoming bars. And now our tick's clearly breaking. We've taken out this whole base of ticks now with that last one.
Neil,
So this is Dave, yeah.
A time of day where like the ES and the YM still haven't filled the gap, so that would be bullish, right? Like
Usually an hour. Usually in the first hour. It can take as many as 2, but if it's not going to fill in the first couple hours, it's not going to usually happen. But look at your
so
5
that's
minute.
another bullish sign then, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And let me just switch this chart and go over. And this is the 5 minutes, guys. You can see them on yours as well. But look at the distance. Here's the YM and the ES. Look at the distance. We're not really even approaching. And we've got a breakdown failure on the YM. sort of won at least this nice double retest on the ES. These charts tell me up. Now it's struggling like crazy, and I'm not. And then, so it's okay to sit here, but this is why I can't take it short. This is why I just really can't get my head around trying to be short here. Is the strength I'm seeing in these other contracts. Granted, the NQs and the Russell are not showing the same picture, but even those I'm not real excited about taking short because look how close our gap fill is going to be. And I know I'm going to get a reaction on the gap fill. You know, it could just pause for a moment and go on lower, but watching and look at these things pop up now again, I'm having a tough time thinking short, and I'm having a tough time really getting excited about long, as Jose describes, because we're just not seeing any follow through here. Now, one thing I can tell you is it's not uncommon that in the first couple hours that we're into this thing an hour, we get into lunch and this thing continues just to go sideways. It's not uncommon to see a move during the lunch period when there's nothing gone on during the first few hours of the day. And as long as this up-down volume will continue to build, and we can hold support, these contracts just go sideways, my bias is still long till I can lose some support. I'm just curious, what are you guys seeing?
Is that a 5-minute shock bar at TF?
Yes, this one is. By 1 tick.
So if we don't get follow through on that shock bar, then we should expect a bounce back.
We should, exactly, Jose. The ticks, if I'm looking at a 2-minute, the ticks are even here. I'm not so sure if we're going to get follow through.
Myself, I'm a little surprised by today's action. Not so much that whether I had a bias of coming down or up, but it just seems like it's pretty narrow and choppy considering the gap.
Yeah.
Usually with a gap like that, you get a little more movement. Even if you're wrong on the direction, it moves better.
Dave, I agree. That's why I really thought if we saw traction in price, it would come down to those support areas only to return to the high. And that's not even happening. YM is the only one holding, and we've got a breakdown failure, and you can see it. You know, if I just flip that to a 2 real quick, you can see we've got a little shakeout trying to form on this on the trying to form on the YM. You know, there's our little shakeout area, and then we're basing here. But typically, they resolve themselves fairly quickly and move on up, and they don't take this long to base. But you look at this now, the shock bar. This is our 2-minute, and that shock bar is not following through. Got another divergence on ticks. So, guys, I'm actually, for me, I just have to stand aside for right now, because while I can argue I don't know how successfully, that we have a reason to be thinking long, and I truly do, they're sure not working out. They're sure not working out. So until something becomes clearer, I am stuck not being able to do anything. Tell you what, let's do.
You know, the Euro trades very nice during the night. I got up at 3 o'clock and made like 3 trades. Like not so much money, but I pulled out like 25 ticks out the Euro. And it was pretty much easy, you know, following just setups and all. It wasn't bad at all. And in the morning, these days, you get up at the open and you can make decent, you know, such a mess most of the time.
I'm not I'm not sure I followed everything you said, Kieran.
No, I'm sorry. I was saying these days it's much better to get up at night and trade the euro than try to do the open, you know.
Yes, I don't disagree. I really don't. I'm watching the euro and that real little retest. In fact, let me just do this. Let me just swap this over. Here's our euro screen. And really the only ones I'm watching is on the top part of this screen, guys. I've got, let me go back and change this.
Alright.
I've got a 1 minute, a 2 minute, and a 5 minute. Then I've got my dollar over here.
Alright.
And this, you see the volume bar down here? This is what I was thinking. This would be a good retest that's already occurred. With this volume bar, they'll oftentimes end the move. But boy, I'm not liking the looks of this long right now. This 15-minute dollar looks like it's still trying to hold up. And I really don't like it short because of this volume bar. This became a little climatic. So I hate to be shorting against a bar like this. We've got another tick divergence going on here.
Do you care about the tick when you're trading a currency?
No, not really, because they're not really working in harmony anymore. The euro at one stage, I remember some time ago, the euro and the S&P were lockstep. They traded right close together. That's not the case today. So we'll see this thing doing whatever it does.
If you trade pre-market, Neil,
Yeah.
Is there a scenario where you would hold through the open on? I'll ask for both, either the euro or something, or one of the U.S. contracts.
Only if I'm into it pretty good on a profit and I have a cushion that I can play with. I kind of like
maybe
this.
a special case like a novice gap or something. If you got short.
Well, no. If I had a good profit in a trade and I'd had something out of it, so I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to let it get me, because the open now with the U.S. markets have become so really kind of unpredictable.
Right.
That like this morning, we had some ideas of what maybe we thought would happen. None of it's really happening. And so I would only hold through the open if I have a good profit and I've locked something in. So kind of like no matter what happens, I won't get hurt on the trade. But I'll try not, if I can close out a trade, unless I just know I'm on the right side of this thing. I'm going to try to get most of it out by the time we get open. If I'm in an E-mini. Now that's not true with the euro or with something else. I don't really care. It doesn't seem to have as big that significant of an effect on the euro, for example. Doesn't seem to have as big an effect on, or the markets don't on the euro. But I like the euro popping up here, guys. I just took a small chunk of the Russell long, and I know that's probably a little aggressive, but I'm looking at these other markets just not breaking down. And I like this little retest on the NQs. ES is still going to go higher. At some point, it's still going to go higher today. I don't know how high. Let me go flip over screens. You got the black screens up, right?
Yep.
Okay. really quiet. But look at our up down volume. It's continuing to build. Has all morning. Our internals aren't getting any worse. We're holding okay on these support areas on the Russell and the YM and the ES. Boy, the Euro's going to get whacked again right here. Guys, this is just an ugly mess. It really is.
Yeah.
What we need to do, guys, is for a little while, let's go over and forget this market. Let's stop looking at it because there's no rhyme or reason to it here, even though it's saying I want to. It's a little train. Nothing's happening. Let's go over and talk about oil real quick.
Before you go, can I just ask you? I'm just curious how you think.
Please.
When you told me you took the euro, did you take the small little double bottom at the midpoint, whatever it is?
No, I didn't take the euro at all.
Not you.
I was
I'm
looking
sorry.
at it.
TF. I'm sorry. I'm looking too many things.
Oh yes, I did. I took it right there on this 1 minute. I just grabbed a light chunk here.
Like 91.6 or something like this, right?
It was 7. It was.
Yeah.
It was. Let me go look.
Oh yeah.
I actually got it on. I looked on the. I think it was 70 by the time I filled.
Of course. Okay. Thanks. I just wanted to know how you do it. Okay. Thanks. Nice.
That's what I was looking at, and the only reason I did that, guys, is I know this one's weak. This one's one of the weaker contracts, but again, the other contracts are holding really well. Well, they're holding pretty good. And I look at the longer term bias. I'm looking at my internals, and well, I don't think it's going to be a huge trade. If I can get up here, I'm going to take a little bit of this off right away. But I'm going to let this just kind of percolate for a minute and see if it won't work its way up. I don't like the tick divergence that's occurring up here to the top. And I think what I'm going to do is sell a little bit of this right now so my exposure is less. But that's where I got it. Just thinking, I think this is going to resolve itself upward a little bit.
All right.
I have a question about the TF because I've noticed at certain price levels, if it's like a breakdown or trigger or whatever, you can get a fair amount of slippage.
Oh
with
yeah.
that one.
Usually, I don't. Occasionally, that's true. That's true. You can. You have to be a little careful with it. But only once in a while do I get a 2 or 3 tick slip on it.
Well, yeah, and I've noticed it's when you break a significant area or whatever. But do you ever
occasionally if I've got
to stop or even take an early entry, just like a tick or two, just to avoid that, or no?
I don't try to. Because what I find is as I look back, I've done more damage to myself taking a early entry before it breaks a prior high, for example, and then the darn thing won't do it. And I've done more damage preempting that than I have by just, if it hits and it pushes me up 2 or 3 ticks from my entry or my stop, well, so be it. So my experience has been that the more I think about it, the worse it gets.
Okay.
So I haven't tried to do that. Now I will use limit orders quite a bit, if particularly when I've got plenty of time. If I'm exiting carefully, I'm in a tight range, prices aren't moving really great, for example, and I start seeing a couple of ticks spread on my bid to ask, which will happen, then I'll use a limit and not a market to exit.
Oh, you can exit, yeah.
And that keeps me from getting pushed.
You've never got you not worried about getting bitten if there's a news event or something, and that's why it's moving.
Oh, I know when the news events are coming.
Well, I mean something out of the blue, like
No, I don't, because it happens so rarely, Dave, that I can always just hit the kill button and flatten the trade, the whole entire trade, if it looks like, or if it, something hits and things just go crazy. I can just kill the trade and walk away and get out okay. So I'm okay there. Guys, I'm going to put a break even on this thing and just walk away from it for a minute. Let's go over and talk about some oil, because, guys, truly, this is just not fun. Okay, I'm out all but a couple of contracts on this now. So
You got the right one. It outperformed. Look at YM.
it's holding. Yeah,
YM's going down. The Russell went up.
that's why I'm going to put a very tight stop on this thing. Look at the ticks, though, guys. Even on this pullback now, the ticks aren't really getting ugly. And now the NQs are, guys, this is starting to move. This is going to start to pop. So I'm going to put me a stop on this Russell at 40, 92.40 will be my out. And that's really tight, but it's okay, because if this one fails, it could, with the way things are acting. If that 2 minute comes right back in on me, then it's okay for me to be out of it. If it pops and goes, then I can move that stop up a little bit. But right now, it's just, this is the euro. Let's go look at the euro, because there we go, guys. Let me go switch this chart, because this euro looks like a fair trade, and this is a spot that I wouldn't mind taking a little bit of a position on this 5 minute. The 1 and the 2 don't look near as hot. I've got some resistance right up here. Kirill,
Yes.
do you find that the euro cares about these pivot lines?
Yes. I don't follow them so much, but I look at them.
Okay.
I think so. But you're the boss.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I have found, see, we're hitting a pivot right now, and I have found that generally speaking, that they don't really respect the pivot lines near as much as does the minis. So I keep them on the 2 minute just so I know they're there, but I don't really care. I mean, I don't really give them a lot of weight. I don't know. That's been my experience. I'm just curious how you felt.
Exactly what you
One
said,
of the
I think, like that, yeah.
Jose,
One of the things is that many a times, as it did right now, the euro and the dollar are not hitting their pivots at the same time. So if they're not hitting the pivots at the same time, the reaction to one or the other is not going to be as strong as if the pivots are closer to each other and they're both hitting at the same time.
okay, that makes sense, because I can see on my dollar chart we're just a hair off our pivot. But see, this little retest on the 5 is not a bad looking, and it hit it. I came over to it after it actually hit, so that one wouldn't be. I don't have a problem trying to take one of those. And I wouldn't load up on this because I know I've got all this junk ahead of me. But these bottoming tails down here, no follow through this red bar. And again, this volume bar tells me this move is probably over. So a retest is something that makes sense to me to try to get long on. And these things fail, so darn often these big volume bars down here. It's not a bad place to look for on a retest for a place to get long. And this 5 minute actually set up fairly well. And it worked with the dollar over here, also. So it got away from us. All right, I'm going to move this up just a skosh. I'm going to get stopped out on it, I know. I'm going to take a little bit more out of this thing. I only got one contract left, and I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put it on. That's I'm going to leave it at 40. What the heck? I'll just leave it at 40 and be fine with it. And let it do its thing. All right, guys, let's do this for a minute. Well, we got a minute here. Let me talk to you about oil. All right? And give you some tips to that. Let me ask you, do you guys trade oil? Anybody trade oil?
I have very infrequently, though. I'm waiting for this lesson.
Do you want this lesson? Guys, I mean, is it important to you?
Yes.
I'm interested, yeah.
All right. Let me share some things with you here that I find to be good for oil trades. And if I don't want this chart, let me go get the right chart up. This is going to work here just fine. And let's kind of keep an eye on these E-minis. Well, we don't have to do a whole lot of keeping an eye on them, guys. I hate this market. I hate this market. I really don't like what, look at this. Without a big stopper, without, gosh, this is hard to get into. The chart says we're going higher. It just was an ugly, look at this. We still have not got a good tick reading. About plus 600 is all we've seen. And Dave, really specifically, this is the environment you don't keep a trade on for a long time. You take stuff off as it moves higher. This is not an environment. When you ask, how do we know when to stay in a trade and how do we know when to be quick on our profits? This is quick on our profits. If you get a little out of a trade, keep your stops tight. You're going to get stopped on it anyway. But unless you're just willing to give a chunk of a trade a huge berth, which I don't like to do. The 5 minutes set higher, and yet NQs are not getting it. YM's trying, but let's go over and talk about oil real quick, and I'll just leave this alone, guys. This is the only chart, and we'll spend a minute here because this is actually kind of fun. This is the only chart that I use a 20-period moving average on and care about it. Okay, and I'm gonna give you some very basic, simple ideas. Okay, and one of the, and we'll go back and look at a couple of these things. But off of a 5 minute, this is where I'm using for my directional trade, and this is simple. The oil is so whippy, and it can go through support, it can go through resistance, and come right back in. It really can get wild and crazy.
You don't have the oil chart up, do you?
It's a white
euro.
No.
Oh God.
Let me see which screen am I showing?
I see the euro.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. Here. I'm just not even close to where I need to be. Now you've got the oil.
By the way, you also use the 20 moving average on the euro.
I do, but I don't pay much attention to it. And it's there only because that was my oil chart. And then I changed my layout, or I changed my format. So I didn't change. Yeah, it's on the euro. I'm sorry, guys, but I don't really pay attention to it on the euro, and I've just been too lazy to move it off. But here's my oil chart up now, right? You got a 5 minute oil chart, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me show you how I use the 20 period, and this is really as simple as this gets, and that is, gosh, look at this. This is great. I came within one ticket getting taken out. I use this 20 period as if I'm above the 20, I'm long. If I'm below the 20, I'm short. Now, truly, that's what I watch. And of course I watch my support and resistance and all that kind of stuff. But this helps give me my bias. I'm really not reading the oil chart in terms of did I take out a pivot and that sort of thing, because I will find that we will have a breakout failure that doesn't follow through, that doesn't work. I'll have a breakdown failure that doesn't follow through, doesn't work. Now they do in the trend a little bit better, but yet shock bars don't have the same influence. Now there's one here that works pretty good, but I've seen so many shock bars that don't follow through come right back in on me. That so a shock bar in and of itself is not necessarily a real great trade unless it occurs in the right place. And here's what I love to do with oil, and these are about the only trades that I really like, is that I am going to buy and sell the oil based on where it is with this 20 period. And so, for example, if I'm trading above the 20 period, now this isn't perfect, it doesn't happen every time, but you'll find that this happens frequently. Now today we're in a bit of some slop, so we're not seeing what I want to see, but the slope of this is real important. I'm going to try to be long, particularly right here now, when the slope is down. And guys, I know, really, this is the only contract that I'm curious about. 92.80. I got to bring my stop up now to 92.80. Guys, on this ES, or the Russell trade, I'm coming now to the bottom of this wide range bar. I'll share that with you just because, so you kind of see how I manage a trade. 92.80 is where I'm going to take that thing, because even though that's a huge stop right now, we all know that if that one comes back in, this trade's long over. It's way over if we come back in off of a big bar like this. So that gives me plenty of room to let this thing do its little jiggling, because I know I've got resistance up here. And the ES is back up to its high of the day. YM at the high of the day. It could come back in on me, but it could go through, because as you know, the Russell has a little more room to go up to resistance. So I'm going to let this, because I'm profitable on the trade. I've only got one contract left of the 4 that I took, and I'm just going to let this do its thing. Now we're not dealing with a whole lot of a big stop or a whole lot of money. So whatever it does, it does. But coming back to this, to the oil trade, when I'm below the 20 here, I'm actually looking for places to short. And what I find is that this will oftentimes, once we're below the 20, it'll break below, it'll come back up, touch the 20, and then roll over again. Now, it's going to do that 2 or 3 times. Let's go back to yesterday. Well, see, that wasn't good yesterday. Look how it just was sloppy the whole day. Let me go back to a trending day. There we go.
But just 1 second. Are you watching the 20 moving average on the 5 minute? And then you trade
I'm watching it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm watching the 20 on the 5 minute.
All right. But are you watching it on the time frame that you're trading off from? Like if you take a trade on the 1 or the 2, do you watch?
Well, actually, no. I'm not looking at the 20 on the 1 and the 2 per se.
Okay.
I'm really watching it off the 5. But I'm using that. I can use the 1 and the 2 for my entry.
Okay, I got it.
But I don't really care where the 20 period is on the 1. I really don't care where it is on the 1. In fact, I don't even have it on my 1. I do have it on the 2. And actually, what I've done, guys, let me just pull this chart over. This chart here that you're seeing is actually. Let me go get it. This is the oil on a 2. Now, what I've done is the gray line is the moving average here is a 50 on the 2, and I use a 20 on the 2. Now, the 50 on the 2 is the same as the 20 on the 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This So as I look at this, I know where the 5 period moving average on the 20 is by looking at this gray line, and then the 2 minute on. I do kind of pay a little bit of attention to the 20 on the 2, but only for entries. So what I'm really concerned about with, and I like to take my entries off the 1 and the 2, and so I can see by looking at the 2 minute chart more fine tuned when I want to be buying this thing. Okay, and so for example. This is a pretty good example right here. Once we see my 5 minutes been moving up, and even though we broke below the 5 right here momentarily, there really was no follow through to it. And really what I want to have is if I've got a rising 20 period moving average, and this is the dark gray line. When I break below it, okay, I don't want to short. And the theory is, I'm going to try to short this thing as I move back up into my 20 on the 5. I'm going to want to short this thing right up here in the 5. And a topping tail, a breakthrough like that, I will want to short this thing. I don't do it if my 20 period is still in an uptrend. The slope on the 20 is still up. I don't want to do it because I find that I usually don't get very good follow through to that. But if I'm in an uptrend on and this is a good example, if I'm in an uptrend on my 5 minute moving average, which I am right this minute, and if I break through like we did here, guys, we start going flat is all, but we broke through, and if I break through more than about 5 or 10 ticks, then that's a pretty significant break, and I find that they usually won't get reversed and come back in, darn it. Let me go find out where I didn't have that chart. I might have to do this for 1 second, guys, sorry. Let me go get that chart back. Okay, we can just look at this thing for a second. But as this thing comes back into the 20, this is where I want to buy it. Guys, you got a rookie. Well, you don't have a rookie. You have an idiot, and that's just all I can tell you. I don't like the way these charts work, but I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to go to screen number 3, because then we can see this thing a little bit better. This is where I want to buy this thing, and this isn't a bad example. We had an uptrend the whole time, so if I've got a slope on my 5 minute that's moving higher, I got to be thinking long, even though I'm below my 5 minute here, my 20 on the 5. Until this rolls over, I don't really want to be aggressively shorting this thing. What I like, the best plays are, in this case, is where we just went flat on my 20 here. When I pull back into the 20 right there, now I've clearly broke out, and that's what this bar is. That's why I like looking at this on the 1 minute or the 2 minute. This is where I like to buy it. Is right there. Oops. Just get that out of the way. I like to buy this thing as I come back into my 20. There's where I touch my 20. And that touch is right here. And what you'll find is it's okay to break through at 3 or 4 or 5 ticks. That's okay with me. But when we bounce off this 20, we usually will get another push up. Now, you never know where it's going to go, per se. Okay? But this is the kind of trade that I like to trade. And because these are the trades that will usually give you your 40, 50, 60 ticks. In fact, we're up to 60 ticks now from where this entry was. And if I scroll back and look at this, and guys, take some time and get used to how this works, because this is, again, now this is pre-market stuff, and so I don't trade this, and I don't put near as much weight in this. But you see, we broke through. Now, if you didn't take this one, I wouldn't have a problem with you waiting on this one. Our slope is up still. we break through decisively, come back up in here, and if you don't take that one, I sometimes don't mind that one if I've got some support and stuff, and my pattern suggests okay. But here, if you wait for another retest into this line, like right in here, these don't fail much. This is a good short. Back up into the 20, watch your bar formation, and if you punch through it a tick or two or three or four, it's fine. If you don't quite get to it, but you'll usually find it rolling over, and I find that the oil will usually work quite well with this 20. Now that's okay. Let me pull forward to another during a market day. Now this one was a sloppy, ugly day, but this one, the day we had before, was not so bad. Now, this is a good place to get on. We've got a break now. We're clearly below. Our 20's now moving down. Any retest into this 20 will usually give you a pretty good trade setup. Now, watch for void. You got to have a little bit of void, but this happens more than not. This happens more than not, where you'll get that retest. The same is true on the downside. Once we break through, and guys, if we break through more than about 10 ticks on the upside of a 20 or the downside of a 20, it's likely that that's going to be a significant enough move to start changing the direction. So when you've got a 20 just going flat, and we're trading above and below, and there's nothing that gives you any good signals, and they're all just stay away from this stuff. I don't even trade this stuff. I wait for things to start trending, and then here's a market day. Again, now we've got the 20 starting to move down. We had the 20 moving down before, over here, and the guys, really, it doesn't happen every day, but in the days that this starts to act this way, you can get some really nice trades, and this is a consistent thing. So again, we break out here, and if you're thinking long, that's fine. But again, you've got a 20 period that's trending down, and then basically we have a very, very slight up scale, but just basically we're still going sideways. Then we break through it. Now we're clearly going down on our 20 again, and our overall direction is down. That's a great place to get in. Over here is a great place to get in, and then as soon as you get your 10,000 plus on a 5 minute, guys, just get out of the trade. You're done. This thing is going to be over. And so those are the two really key concepts with oil is I will be looking to scalp oil long once I get a climatic sell of plus 10,000 on a 5 minute chart. This one was 16. Even better. This is a climatic buy setup now. And we'll talk about how I buy those in just a minute. Okay, guys, I'm moving my stop up to a 94.20. And I might be about all I'm going to get out of this thing.
Okay. This one, the Euro candle, is it a good stop like 53 right now? You think?
On what?
The Euro, I'm sorry.
Which?
60.
Oh, let's go look.
I got one, but I'll get out. What do you think? It's a nice thing.
So where's your stop?
53 under the midpoint.
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be.
A little tight, no?
Yeah, but I can see the 5 starting to stall. This euro could easily break down below that and then keep on going. Boy, the dollar's coming in. This is nice. Where did you get it, Carol? Because I wasn't even watching it. Pardon me?
I got in, my fuel was 27 by the time I got in.
Ah, okay. Over here. All right, nice. Nice trade. Nice trade.
Yeah, the 5
Okay,
minute looks so good. You showed it to us, and then the 2 minute pull down, and that's it. Well, not bad.
Okay,
I'm still in.
good.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back to oil here just real quick. Come on. All right, where were we? A couple of days ago. lines on here. There we go. These guys, again, watch this for a while, and so you kind of get familiar with how it behaves. But when we get this environment, again, trade along with your 20. I would paper trade it for a month or two and get a good feel for how it works, and you could try some live money. But what I can tell you is this is the one thing I found that keeps me out of the whip, because as you guys know, this thing can give you a good setup and only come back in and just clean your clock. And so these are the types of setups on the oil that I found to be really, really reliable. And all I'm looking for is a pierce into that 20. Like I say, you don't always get right to it, but I'm just looking for a 1 minute, 2 minute topping tail, and that's what I'm looking to trade off of. And then when we get these bottoming tails like this, and in fact, I remember watching. I think this is the one I watched. Let me go over and what is this day? This is 16905. I want to flip this to a 1 minute and just bring the 1 minute in.
Let me ask you technically how you do it. Like, so you watch the 5 minute to approach the 20, and then you just...
I do.
Yes, and then you look for a 1 minute like topping tail or something, and that's how you get it, right?
I do. That's how I usually get on.
But do you wait on the wall? Do you wait for a break of low or high on the previous bar, or just you get into it?
Usually, if I'm looking for a 1 minute, yeah, I'm going to try to look for a break on a 1 minute.
Okay.
I found that too aggressive with oil is usually not as good as not being very aggressive or too aggressive. But up in here, I'm going to be looking for like a 1 minute entry that'll give me, and even if I get, and that's what I'm hoping for, is I can get a little shock bar, a little entry here. Up here, you got a little 1 minute entry on this top as it breaks through the 20 and back in. And that's what I'm looking for, is a topping tail.
All right.
But guys, on the climatic bottom, there's one more thing that, and again, play it with resistance, because usually you can usually get 50 plus ticks out of a climatic bottom. What I have to have is, on this bottom like this, is I have to have a 1 minute retest. Okay? And this is, let me see if I can get this to a 1 minute. And let me just change my time so I don't have to go through so much junk. And I think I can get there. All right, this is probably it. Okay, I'm out of my ES or my Russell trade here. This is the kind of climatic bottom I'm looking for, and what I want to see is a little 1 minute like this one. And this is interesting, guys. This little thing doesn't happen very often, and I don't think this is not the exact time that we were looking at. 9:05 was, I thought. I don't even. Hang on a minute. Hang on, guys. Let me do this right. Let me do this right so we can see this thing. I want to put a mark on it. Now I can find it on my 1 minute. I wish my jump 2 on this would work, but my jump 2 doesn't work any better than what I'm doing. There we go. Here's what I wanted. And I get down into here and look at this. I've got almost 6,000 contracts on a 1 minute. This isn't really what I want. I want one more push down. And I remember, I don't remember if it was this one or if it was another day. Guys, can you guys hang on for like 2 minutes for me? Will you do that?
Yeah.
I gotta take this for just 1 second. guys, I'm back. Sorry. All right, let's go back. Here's what I'm looking for. And this is... am I on a 1 minute? I am on a 1 minute. This is what I'm looking for on this climatic bottom. And what I want is a little 1 minute retest. If you don't get that retest, then, that's okay. But I won't take it unless I get a little retest, and something like this is marginal, and let me tell you why. I find that if you get a good 1 minute retest, then they fail so darn or infrequent. If you don't get it, sometimes they will fail. So I'm quite reluctant to do anything. But I have to tell you guys, watch your volume here, because this is very traditional with oil. When you get a plus 5,000, even a plus 3,000 on a 1 minute bar, guys, after the move is down, this baby is going to be over with. You just don't find that this thing able to do much more than this on the downside. This is climatic. It's over. It doesn't work on the upside so much. I don't see that we get these great big volume spikes and have much of a reversal. But on the downside, particularly when your longer term trends are up, these climatic buy setups are very powerful on the oil. And again, you can usually get 50, 60 points. This is your resistance area. And if you were to try to buy this down in here, and it's okay, you start getting this kind of volume, and you can be fairly aggressive on this entry. But I do like a retest. In the absence of a retest, I'm a little less reluctant to try to take this. Now, on the 5 minute, okay, going back to a 5 minute, let me go back to a 24 hour. On the 5 minute, when we get a climatic bottom as well, if you wait for a fight, just like we did on the euro, guys, if you wait for a retest. Now, sometimes, here's a good example. A couple of days ago, we got a 9,000, 8,500 contract sell-off that comes down. The move's been going on for a few hours. We lose it again. Range, guys. 200 points is not unusual in oil from high to low, but once we get about 150 to 200 ticks from our prior high, watch for a climatic event, because usually we won't get a range bigger than that. It's just not all that frequent that we get a range much bigger than that. And you can start looking for something to get you as a counter trend trade. Again, guys, these are rules only to oil. I don't use them on the euro. I certainly don't use them on the E-minis. This is just oil stuff. So a couple things you want to make a comment of. 200 point range is about all you're ever going to see. Now, when I say ever, occasionally that's not the case, but usually that's about all you'll ever see. Along with that, the 5 minute doesn't like to get more than 100 ticks away from this 200 period or the 20 period moving average. So when the lowest point we were at 844, 87.25. There's 120 ticks. We don't usually get much more than that away from a 20 period moving average. This thing wants to hug this 20. So when we get, again, those are the things you're looking for. We come into a 200 total point move, we get more than 100 ticks away from our 20 period moving average on a 5. Start looking for a climatic bottom. Now, on a 5 minute, just like, and I like this on the euro as well, I don't mind a 5 minute entry on the euro for a retest. Now, this is a little bit of a sloppy entry, but as you look at this, either of these entries would have worked, and you really have to leave part of this down. But this one worked even better, and you can see, once we actually took out some support, resistance. That's why we get this retest. is when this thing takes off, if it doesn't go up fairly well before it starts coming in, then you're concerned. But where this one takes off, this entry, we take out this area of resistance, which now tells us that the chances are much better that we'll hold our support if we can take out a little bit of resistance, which we do over here. And ultimately, then we try to take this stuff out. But, as you look at this thing, you just watch your bars formation and watch your support. But generally, guys, we're gonna see this retrace back up into a resistance area, and there it is. Is it all the way up there? I don't know, but that's where this thing often will go, and then you can just close it out or whatever you want to do when you get up in there. I just will close them out usually when we get back up in here. But the 5-minute retest is great. The whole key to this is, did we get climatic on the bottom? And if the answer is yes, then even better. Likelihood is that you're going to get, if you miss a 1 minute, don't worry, wait for a 5. Wait for a good 5 retest. Breakdown failure, whatever you want to use. There's just a very small one right there that gives you a little breakdown failure that will get you in. They don't always take this long to get going. Frequently they'll come a little quicker than that.
I have a question.
Yes, Dave.
This might be hard to answer on the 5-minute, but that first red bar after 11 o'clock that you tried that, and then there was a wide range green bar.
Yes.
Like, would you have been in there over that red bar?
No, not here. Because this gives me just too much stop. I like these little bars, and I would have liked to have found, frankly, a much tighter stop down here, and I would have been looking at a 1 or a 2 on this retest. That's where I want to buy this. I don't want to buy it up here on a 5. Now, I don't mind a small 5 to get in on, per se. But I don't like buying them with this big a stop. So the chances are, if I can't find an entry right down here, Dave, I don't want to get this one.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So that in that red bar, there might have been an entry as it turned
Yes.
on the 1
Yes.
minute. And chances are, after that green bar, you would have been out before it came all the way back down. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm in on a 1 minute entry, there's no way I'm going to let that come all the way back in on me. And occasionally oil will do that. Like I say, yesterday I was in a trade that I had 30 plus ticks on, and the darn thing didn't. It came back in and got me. Now the zero's going, our E-minis are going. I told you, Jose, we were going higher.
And one more question. After that green bar, in a sense, almost... it didn't fail because, the market held support there at that 87.40 area. You still would have been watching it for long anyway.
I would have.
Would that been enough? That wouldn't have been enough for you to take your eye off the chart at that point?
No, not because of this climatic. I know that I really think this climatic bomb's going to hold. And what I would have, again, these little bars here I like. I really do. This entry's okay. It's not a bad little reversal. I'd be watching it on a 1 minute. But frankly, if I can get a little breakdown failure like happens right here, I'm okay with that. But this is only, guys, after we have a climatic sell. It doesn't. I would never do this in a basing situation. Just if oil is basing, I would never pull this off. This is only because it becomes climatic. That's the key to this. This is absolutely, it must have. Don't do this in just as it's basing. No. It's got to be climatic, and it's got to be really nice and climatic. And frankly, this one's marginal in that I like 10,000 or more. To me, I get excited about 10,000 or more. Anything less than 10,000, I'm a little bit more cautious of, but I'm still watching for the very same event. When we get to 10,000 or more, guys, they don't sit around very long and wait. Now we're getting into, okay. This one just on the 1 minute. Oh, that's the 5. We had like, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 on the 1. This took a bit to get going. Which I don't remember. We looked at that on the 1, didn't we? Oh, we did. We did. And let me tell you, there was one more thing that happens. Let me get to the, because guys, this is really, if you get this happening, get ready to trade it, because this happens so infrequently. It'll happen 1 or 2 out of 10 times at the most. But when it does, this is one that I found that you really, really can have a ton of, we're almost there. A ton of assurance that this trade's going to work out. Come on, we got to be getting close. My arrow should show up here any second. There we go. There's my 1 minute. This isn't what I thought. Is it the next one over? What I want to show you is a case where a climatic bottom fails and we push on through a climatic bottom, and the next bottom becomes less volume and still gives us a little 1 minute retest. Dang it, I'm not seeing one. I thought I saw one. And I'm not seeing one here, and I gotta get them during market hours to make it any good. Well, there's the idea, guys. And as we go back and look at these climatic events, you only get them once or twice a week that are good. But when you get them, now I'll just explain this so it makes a little bit of sense, and that is sometimes you'll see a climatic event like this where prices will pop back up only to roll over and break this low again. You never want that to happen. So if you're playing a climatic bottom, don't let it come back in and take money. Okay, take some stuff off, protect yourself. Don't get a losing trade or a stop out where you lose money on a climatic bottom. They shouldn't set up that way. If you get them right, they're going to move again 40, 50, 60 ticks right off the bat, and then you can start taking stuff out into resistance. But if they come and they actually break your climatic bottom bar, hang on. Don't give up, because your next point will be semi-climatic, and when you get a nice bottoming tail off of a 1 minute there, or a retest, if you want to wait for a retest later, you'll get one. You can really climb on them, because occasionally they'll drift on a little bit lower past that climatic bottom. But when they do that, guys, we usually get a really nice response back up. And again, I'm just looking at a major area of resistance to get out, but I'll let them do their little jobs and do their work, and they just fail so infrequently. So that's, in a nutshell, that's the several things I'm trading oil on. I want to trade on the upside of my moving average in that direction or below it, and I love when we get, in a deal like this, a breakdown failure here that breaks down below the rising 20, I'm okay with buying this thing coming back up on a breakdown failure. Because my trend is up, I've got a breakdown failure, and this is something that, again, you look at how we reach support and resistance. It came back to support. This is our support area. It just pulled back into support. The whole trend is up. And I'm okay buying a breakdown failure, and then you monitor it. You just trail the trade. These are okay to even buy. These, again, this is a little whippier than you like to see them. But the best scenarios, guys, is when you make a decisive breakthrough, come back and touch your 20, and then go. Now this is getting 100 ticks away. Not quite. That's 70 ticks now. We're going to see this thing probably try to come back in to this. Somewhat. Doesn't change our trend, and I surely wouldn't short this. This is starting to get climatic on the upside now, guys. See, this is an example why I don't like climatic tops, is they don't work out as much as climatic bottoms. This prior top gave us a 9,700 contract bar. And if we look at a 1 minute, they're going to see a 1 minute retest. Let me go back to a 5 because I think I want to get, yeah, here we go. I don't like them on the top. There's our climatic 1 or 5. So that becomes our climatic 1 minute bar. You get a little bit out of this one, but gosh, if you were counter trading that, if you bought it and sold it at 60, and you waited until you got 15 ticks out of this. This isn't a great trade. I don't like these on the top. This one, now look at this one. This one gave us 6,100 ticks or contracts on this climatic top. Now this becomes shortable to me. I'm not going to short it because I don't like the top. I don't like to short these tops like this because I find they don't work near as well. The bottoms, the climatic bottoms, work so much better. So if this was a climatic bottom and we push through like this with this kind of volume, I would absolutely be taking this long. I mean, guys, flip this over. Think about this. I would be taking this trade here on this bar for sure. So my entry would be this bar once I got that climatic volume bar here. And occasionally you'll see oil push on through. So if you just flip this chart over and think about this as a short trade, as the long trade, this going down, if our climatic 1 minute bar gets broken and we push on down a little bit lower, I'm just waiting until I get my next 1 minute bottoming bar to get on it because I know it's going to come back in. But as I say, I won't do this on a top because I find that they're not very reliable. Even though it's climatic, I think it's done for a while. And I think it's going to probably drift down into this 20 period, either on the 2 or the 5. It's going to come back in. I'm not willing to short this thing. They just don't work very well. Now, this will probably drift a little lower, but I just don't like them on there. I love them on the bottoms. So that's my, really guys, we can talk more about this and review some of these things, but I want to trade it with the 20. I want to buy it bouncing off of the rising 20, or I want to sell it as it bounces off a declining 20. And if I can get a nice break through my 20, and as it approaches, comes back into the 20, I don't mind selling it there. But I want my 20 going down. I don't want my 20 going up. That's why this one fails. You see, that's why, so just understand, this one punches back up through the 20 and then rolls over. If I had a declining 20 period moving average, I would love that setup. But I don't. I have the entire trend is still up. And that's why this one doesn't work. And that's why this one, see that climatic top didn't work. That's not unusual. See, we're not going to get near the volume here that we had. And that's why I just don't short climatic tops on oil. But again, if this was a 20 coming down, this little scenario would be ideal. And I would love to be shorting it here. But we can't. And that's what makes this a nice buy setup, is because we base here underneath, we're holding our trend, we pop above our 20, we come back into our 20, and we buy it off of this 20. Try to buy it as it bounces off this 20 again, and go. These are fairly reliable. And oftentimes I'll stay away from the contract completely until I either get a climatic sell or buy setup, or I get a trending contract that I can buy off my 20. That's the two trades I'm looking for. And everything in between has been a little more difficult for me to get a good batting average on.
Do you think what you said about the tops and the bottoms on oil, which I agree with you, is because the daily is in a strong uptrend? I mean, not strong, but it's uptrend. In other words, the push on oil is up, so basically the tops don't work too short, but the bottoms work nicely to buy.
Exactly. Yeah. And in fact, I think I made that comment, is that when we've got an uptrend in our bigger time frames, those climatic bottoms work really, really well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
we are. We've got a pretty strong uptrend going on the oil here.
Yeah.
So that's why they work. But right now, in this environment, and even in a downtrend, guys, I found those climatic bottoms still to be fairly reliable. For some reason, the climatic tops aren't, but the bottoms tend to be. So again, guys, I don't pay a lot of attention to the I look at the 60-minute, but I wouldn't play a head and shoulders off of a 60 per se. I want to know it's there. I want to see, but I see the oil going through these areas of support, breaks out, comes back in, breaks down, pops up, comes back in. This is just typical oil, and I can't make heads or tails out of this oil half the time with, where it's going. We get a little new low failure here, comes back up into resistance, rolls back down. Gosh, on a longer time frame, I just don't pay a lot of attention to it because it's been so erratic, and it is. So this is the only thing that's kept me kind of on track with trading the oil. And again, you guys, you get a day like yesterday when we're in a good uptrend on oil like this, but we're going decisively below and above and back below and above and back. I just stay away from this. I don't like, again, this one you may have had a reason to short this one based on what I'm telling you. This one makes a decent reason to short. You got two topping tails. You have to be careful. That big up bar, that was a very powerful move up. Had that come up more slowly, this would have been a little better short setup. So, you put the whole picture together, and I never like to go short against a big, strong bar like that or a big bottoming tail. So, again, there you go. That's the concept, that's the theory, and I find that strategy works for me quite well on oil. Now, I know I did that in a flash. I really had intended to spend a little more time with it when we did it, but that's the concept with oil that I trade, and I find it works really, really well.
Do those bottoms occur very often outside of, Wednesdays, 10:30, the oil report? Or
oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll occur at various times. It's certainly the news, can get things moving, but I'm not if the event occurs on a Wednesday or a Monday or a Friday, I'll take the same event. All I'm looking for is that climatic buy setup to look to get long oil. And guys, if you wait for it and just be real, again, I think you will, because it's new to most of you. Paper trade it, watch it, and get familiar with how it acts around that 20, and then give it a whirl once in a while. When it acts properly, they're just really high odds trades. You don't usually get spooked out, and you don't have too much trouble. Excuse me. Any questions, guys? I know we covered that really quickly, and I hope you wrote down or made some notes as to how we work with this 20 period.
Okay.
You find that the 20 period is most reliable when you're looking at the 24-hour chart?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't look at oil on a market hour chart. I only look at it, and the euro's the same way. I just look at them on 24 hours all the time.
May I ask you something about your TF trade?
Yes.
Unless the other guys want to ask something about oil first. Ah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, sure. Okay, so I followed your bias along, which was kind of obvious, but not so obvious the first half an hour. But do you think that this thing, the shock bar that we had, and then no follow through to the shock bar with the little inside bar, where exactly you bought it, is it like kind of a good reasoning to buy, to go long? You know what I mean? Because
Well,
before that we had like a huge shock bar on YM that didn't follow through, which was
Yeah.
suspicious.
yeah, actually, yes. That was when I actually, Carol, this is the
Yeah.
shock bar that
Yeah,
you're referring
exactly.
to. And what caught my eye more than anything is right down here, as I was looking at the fives, we talked about the fives. The five said higher. And even though it was ugly, sloppy, yucky, when I looked at the 1 and the 2 here, the YM and the ES actually initiated a little bit, and this is where I bought the darn thing, was right here. And a couple of things that were happening is we were getting this on all the contracts, obviously, but the YM and the ES actually made this move first and broke above this bar before my Russell did. I was just kind of glancing at them on those 1 minutes, and they actually initiated the move first. And I thought, boy, the way it's looking, I think this is a good spot to get in. And again, there was no follow through to that shock bar. And I think, in fact, somebody was even talking, I don't know if it was you or somebody was talking about that shock bar not following through, or potentially not following through. This is, in and of itself, Carol, is not a great trade. If you're just looking at it by itself, it isn't so bad when the other ones actually initiated the move first. And had they not started the move, I don't think I wouldn't have taken this. That's what made me jump this one. Is I just saw it real quick that the other two kind of started to pop. Well, pop isn't much, me a little aggressive, but they started the move first.
Okay, I follow you. Yeah, thanks.
So that's what caught my eye.
Got it. Okay.
And then, guys, when I ended up, let me just walk you through how I managed that trade, because that's usually a good question. I was selling stuff out as this thing was going up, and really I didn't start until I came up here. I had left my stop at 40. This is where I put it in once before. And actually that's at 50. But I put it at 40, one tick below that bar. And I remember I just left it because I thought, yeah, right here I'm going to get a little bit of reaction. And I thought, if I get stopped, I get stopped. Once this thing broke, then my trade had to come to here. That makes sense, I'm sure. And that was a pretty big bar. And then my trade ended up right there with that topping tail, because look what was happening. I think I mentioned it. I don't know. This was going on at the time. And I was right up into here. So I didn't know, and the ES was right there as well. So again, you don't know, you have no idea this is going to happen, but you just know you have to tighten stops when you get into this area. And had this price been moving better, I may have been willing to sit through more of this pullback with part of a contract, but I was down to one contract by the time I got up here.
All right.
So that's how those stops actually went.
So you don't trade every time 50, 60 contracts like you usually do, right?
I've never had 60 contracts on.
Thank you.
Truly, I have had 20 contracts on. But I don't do that very often. And I usually won't do that in one contract. If I'm going to have that many contracts, I'm going to have it in an NQ and a Russell, or ES and a Russell, or something. I've not ever put 20 contracts on one E-mini. I've done it with multiple E-minis, but not on one.
I always thought to trade like 30, 40 at the time.
You do?
Yeah, I honestly think so. You're right most of the time. I've been following like 2, 3 years. I've been writing down. Your observations are mostly right. Not mostly, but all the time.
No, did you say you carry 30 or 40 contracts?
No, I thought you do all the time. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't carry that many contracts. And really, honestly, it's a mental issue for me. I get stopped out with that many contracts, and I can't live with myself.
Yeah.
So, I don't like having those big losses. So, and they are. You got 20 contracts, you get stopped out, boy, it leaves a dent. So you have to be, mighty careful. But typically, typically I won't take. Well, if things are just terrible and I'm bored, and I mean, 3 is the minimum I usually will ever take. But I'm trying to take, on an average of a light trade for me is 5 contracts, and then I'll go into the 10, 12 contracts on a lot. If I'm really confident, I may take 10 on one and 10 on another. That's the area I'll get, and I'll get up to 20 or just a hair more, but not very often, Carol.
I ask you
because
because
have a good trending market.
I was curious because
What's that?
once I was following Hedge like 2 years ago, I was putting down comments, and he was saying that his first trade, he used to trade ES, I think, at the time, and he said, okay, my first trade, I take like 25 contracts, and then I take like 5 usually at the trade. So I was just curious, that's why I asked you. That's what
He
said.
doesn't trade that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying like I was surprised because 25, especially for me, is a lot. And he said every morning first trade is 25, and then I go down to like 5, and was very surprised about it. That's all.
Yeah, I know he doesn't do that now. I guess I don't remember him saying that, but I guess I'm not surprised.
Possible.
But see now, guys, here's the tough. We're in the time of day. Look at our up-down volume. Look at our trend. Look at our internals over here, and there's just nothing. There's nothing I can do. The YM strong now is not showing that same strength. The Russell, who was considerably weak, is showing really good strength, and the NQ's got off the mat. Look at it. They haven't taken out any really major resistance yet. So I don't know what the rest of these going to bring, but it doesn't look great. It looks, I don't know. I just don't like seeing this much conflict in the markets. So I'm going to be trading very carefully this morning, the rest of the day, and I'm not going to touch this thing for the next hours. Just period. I'm not going to trade anything for the next couple of hours. You could over the year. Well, I was going to say, let's flip over. I don't want to short gasoline or oil up here. See, we've got another climatic bar that's not following, that's not coming around. Let's go look at the euro real quick. I was going to say we might find a euro short. Just judging from. And again, this is an aggressive short way up. But just looking at what the dollar over here, you just can't see it. Sorry. Let me just change this real quick. Get to screen 3. Looking at the dollar over here, that we're sitting on some good support over here on the 15-minute. Got a bottoming tail off of it. That leads me to believe that the dollar or that the euro may have some trouble up here. And the euro's sitting right on a 60-minute pivot too. But I'm not interested in doing it. I'm just saying it could come back in. But I'd be scalping it at best if I were to short this thing. I wouldn't be looking for a big net of it. Okay, guys. I think I'm done. Now, Thursday. Guys, we're at the close Thursday, correct? We are.
No, I think it's daytime.
No, we're at lunch. We're at lunch.
Lunch.
We're at lunch. Sorry, guys. Yep. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of do a review at lunch. of a number of the concepts that we talked about. And if you've got some specific things you want me to hit on that, I know, email them to me. Dave is the one that sent me anything. And he sent me some, how do we stay in the trade? And really, Dave, and the short answer to that is, we'll talk about it again. The short answer to that is, you can only stay in a trade, as far as I'm concerned, on pivot trades, when you first have void, obviously. Secondly, you have the markets acting in concert with one another. There's harmony in the direction, and they're all acting about the same, and price is acting well at support and resistance. Those are the only times you really can stay in a trade and let it go. Now, you look at the 5 minute today of the YM, for example, and even though it held up really, really well, I wouldn't be staying in a pivot trade on a day like today. And the NQs give you ammunition to believe the same is absolutely true. Even Russell is trying to push now to a new high. It is the only contract, and the NQs look terribly weak comparatively to the Russell. Again, those two should be mirror one another closer than they are. So this is an environment where you just can't stay in a trade very long, because you don't know when the Russell's going to turn into an act like the NQs are. See, the interesting part is the Russell was the best contract on that trade that I got into. Lucky for me. That's all it was. Lucky for me. But the NQs didn't give you hardly anything. YM gave you a little, ES gave you a little. The NQs didn't do anything. So the environment tells you just can't stick your neck out very far. Now, look at one more thing. Let me show you one more thing, guys. It's kind of interesting. And this is how I put together 2 or 3 different. Over here on this chart, I've got the transportation index up in the SOX and the XLF, the XLE. I've got Alcoa only because they had announcements and I wanted to see what's going to go on with the announcement. But I'm looking at Apple, I'm looking at Google. Oops. I did I'm looking at Google. And these things kind of give me a bias to the market, but all I can get is that it's primarily Apple that's kicking the NQs today. It's causing some trouble for the NQs. And what I'm not liking is see how weak the second chart from the top on the left is the transportation index. That I really relate to the YM and the ES. And the fact that it's having so much trouble leads me to believe these guys are coming in. I know the markets don't move well without the transportation index, either up or down. They need this transportation index to support them to do very well. And the financials can hold the Russell, and they're doing that now. And they can hold the ES and the YM and whatnot degree, but the transportations are imperative that they're having a good day if the markets are going to have a good day. And the fact that they're not having a good day, potentially breaking the low from prior, leads me to believe that we're going to have some real problems with the going higher. So I'll look, do we set up an M-top? Do we break a pivot point? And if so, can we then look for some weakness later in the day? And it'll depend a little bit upon what goes on with the trans. The SOX, on the other hand, it's interesting that the SOX are holding up very well and Apple is not. Because the NASDAQ is full of SOX. And so the dog I can tell here is primarily, looks to me like it's going to be Apple and a few of those. Still holding up really well. So I'm not thinking that the ES is going to do well with the trans being this week. But I hate it when I have these various sectors all showing such different messages. Our oil, our energy is up very nicely. Financials are still holding really well. Stocks are holding well. Transportation is the only major one that really stinks. And this is the kind of conflict that causes the uncertainty and the trouble. Okay, guys. guys. So Thursday we're on at lunch, and we'll just do a review. And if you want to hit any specific items, I'll go back and Dave, I'll check your email, and we'll talk about trying to stay in a trade. Today is not a day to stay in a trade. That's all I can say. And you see the difference between today and a different trending day. Do you guys remember that when we talked about how to trade a trending day?
Yep.
Okay, those are the environment. When you get things like that happening, that's when you want to stay in a trade. That's when you want to leave stuff on. But we started out in the morning just